What's going on, guys? JPS back for another video, and today we will be reacting to my first NHS A&E experience as an American. I was shocked. And this video is coming from the Tutor Yank, so maybe she's from New England or something, but is now living in England as an American, I believe. And we're going to hear about her experiences. Healthcare, absolute nightmare in the United States. You pay a shit ton of money and get hurt, and they don't even want to pay for it. So what's the point in even having health insurance? But you have to have health insurance, because if you don't have health insurance and you get hurt, might as well just I'm laughing, but it's actually sad. People really consider that too. If they get really badly injured or something bad happens, they're like, maybe it's just my time to go. I can't pay that $500,000 bill. So that's honestly tragic, and I wish we had a better system and actually cared about our citizens. But yeah, we're going to hear about the NHS. There's been a lot of, disagreement and some differing opinions about the NHS. Some people, swear by it and love it. And some people in the comments have also said that the NHS is a mess. So I'm not really sure. I honestly think that any system other than what's going on in the United States is fantastic. Like it's very hard to be worse than us at healthcare. We have amazing quality of healthcare. Like we have a lot of the new technology, and you can get really good care if you're really rich, if you got the money for it. But when it comes to taking care of our population as a whole, we do absolutely nothing for the majority of Americans. So yeah, let's roll right into this, guys. Consider joining the Patreon. First link in description for full reactions to British TV shows and movies. We've started Jonathan Creek, really nice show in this country, mockumentary. It's been brilliant, and we're about to finish up Little Britain and Little Britain USA. So if you want to come over there, it's going to be some new shows added to the rotation very soon. Over 1,000 posts, no pressure. Also, another thing, guys, this right here is not a cross, just the window. For people who've been saying that I'm like some evangelical Christian or something, no, it's just the window. Anyways, let's go.
Today, I thought I would talk about my experience with the NHS so far. Luckily, personally, I have not had any emergencies since getting here. I am dealing with still trying to get my prescriptions from the US transferred to over here. Prescription names and medication names in the States are a little different.
She said she has no emergencies, but it's A&E. Is that not the emergency service in NHS? I'm not sure.
Names and medication names in the States are a little different here due to, of course, trademarks and for-profit healthcare. My first experience with the NHS here was actually when my husband had to go to A&E last December. And for you Americans out there, A&E is the same as the ER in the States. Now, he was dealing with a chest infection, upper respiratory issue, couldn't figure out what it was, but in the middle of the night, one night, he was having a really difficult time breathing. His father has a history of heart attacks, so to be safe, we decided just to go to the A&E to make sure everything was okay. And luckily, it was. It was really nice to have that peace of mind just to double check, because as you know, if you're having a heart attack, time is of the essence. Now, we did opt to just take an Uber, call us American in that sense. I know that you can call an ambulance here, but the hospital wasn't very far, and it seemed like it was probably the fastest option. Again,
that does sound pretty practical, but that is such an American thing to just get an Uber. I already like this. I can tell that she's going to have a good perspective.
As Americans, we're really conditioned never to call an ambulance. You don't know if that ambulance sent will be in network for your insurance. So it's very possible you could get a bill a couple months later for $5,000 to $10,000 because the ambulance sent to you wasn't in network. Now, when we got to A&E, he was still waiting on getting his NIN number in the mail. While he is a British citizen, he had never lived here before, so he didn't have a number yet. This was actually no problem at all at the A&E. He gave them his information, and they said they would be able to find that later for him. So when we showed up to A&E, compared to the ER in the States, he didn't have to do a mountain of paperwork while he's sitting there in pain. He didn't have to show his insurance card. None of that. It was just treated as an actual medical issue. Now, it was a Saturday night around 1 to 2 in the morning, so the A&E was pretty busy at this time, but he did get through the whole process in probably 4 to 5 hours. It slowed down in time because they initially took him in to check right away that he wasn't having a heart attack. And once that was confirmed by the first round of doctors, due to being triaged, he was not put as a priority issue. Thank goodness, right? Like, thank goodness it wasn't a heart attack. And it was nice to know that information right away. They took him to the back and checked his blood pressure and a couple other things. That's where they confirmed there was not an active heart attack going on, and they drew blood. About an hour later, we got his blood results back, and then it was 2 more times going to the back over the course of the evening to see various doctors and nurses and have tests ran, then just back to the waiting room. I will say in the waiting room, the vibe and the tone is completely different than ERs in the States.
Okay.
People were making small talk. There were people kind of laughing. It was filled with people, but no one looked.
What? Oh my God, guys. I have been to the emergency room one time in my life that I can really remember. And it's because I ran into a pole whilst playing basketball. Clumsy, but that was honest. It was a traumatic experience. I'm gonna be honest, guys. And okay, trauma is much worse than that. But like the things that I saw in there, it's just rough. You know, like the emergency room in the United States, at least the one that I went to, and I feel like based off of what other people have told me anecdotally, like it's a shared experience. A lot of people who don't have health insurance, they don't have a primary care physician, they go to the emergency room because that's the only doctor that will, like, they're forced to see them basically. Like by law, they have to care, you know, give them some treatment. And like, you know, I saw a 2-year-old baby that was like unconscious with like bruises all over his head, that was like being rolled in on a stretcher. And, you know, just a lot of the vibes in there were just so like hectic and unsettling. That's exactly how I would describe it. Like, hell no. It made me never want to go back to an emergency room, honestly. The reason why I had to go is because we thought there was a concussion or that I had like broken a bone or something, but I just had to get it like stitched and glued up. So did I have a concussion? I don't even know. It's okay. But yeah, guys, emergency room in the United States, you really don't want to go there. So the fact that it's like more chill in Britain, that's an amazing. That's the environment you need to have in an emergency room.
It was filled with people, but no one looked as depressed as ERs in the States look. In the States, you also sit in the ER for hours. 8 to 10 hours for a non-emergency in the ER is not an exaggeration, especially depending on where you're at and the size of the hospital, the size of your city, where the next nearest hospital might be. All of these things affect your wait time. And yes, that is with crazy expensive insurance. Now, people in the ER in the States without insurance tend to be the ones that wait the longest, unfortunately. While that is not legally how it's supposed to go, we all know that's not necessarily going to affect what actually happens. So after a few rounds of tests, at the very end of it, around 5, 6 in the morning, the doctor came and spoke to him, and it turned out he had a chest infection. They were able to give him antibiotics right there. He didn't have to go to a pharmacy afterwards or a separate location to get his medications later. Didn't have to show an insurance card, nothing. He just got treatment and got to go home and rest and recover. Now, I got my NIN number a couple months ago. Luckily, I haven't really needed anything. I did make an appointment to go talk to my GP about how to get my medications switched over here from the States, which I will admit is going to be a whole process because of the way the two medical systems are set up differently and what doctors you see for certain steps to get those diagnoses, and they don't recognize the diagnosis in the States from my general practitioner who is a doctor. It needs to be from a specific type of specialist, which is a little frustrating. But in terms of frustration with healthcare, literally the least frustrating healthcare situation I've ever dealt with. Now, I know there's so much more to the NHS than my one little experience, and I do plan on digging in and giving a more deep dive coverage of what it's like dealing with the NHS compared to American healthcare. But I just wanted to share one of my first experiences off the cuff dealing with the NHS and what a positive experience it was compared to dealing with healthcare in the States. I had private health care in the States, and because my husband's job offered his insurance through his job, and my job is freelance, which means there's no employer to offer me those insurance plans, I was able to get on his plan through his job as my insurance due to being married. They didn't cover mine, it just gave me access to better coverage insurance. Whereas if I was to pay out of pocket as a freelancer, the coverage I would get would be much lower at a higher premium. I did want to add one little tidbit. I actually grew up in Kentucky with no insurance my entire life. The first time I ever had health insurance was when I was 25. I grew up with a
Yeah, that is crazy. She was rolling the dice. Wow. That part about when her husband was in A&E though, and got diagnosed with the lung infection, and then they just gave him antibiotics on the spot without needing an insurance card. That is a huge key. I was sick like a couple weeks ago, and oh my God, I had what I thought was strep throat. It turned out to be something else. I don't even know, but they had to give me antibiotics, and it was so bad. The sickness was so bad. Like I didn't want to go. And then I had to go to from the doctor to this pharmacy. It wasn't ready. It takes like an hour to get ready. So that's not convenient at all, especially when you're really sick. So then I had to go home. Then I had to go back to the pharmacy. Thankfully, it was ready at that point. But I have the fever, like chills, all this stuff. The last thing you want to be doing is bouncing around. So, and then of course it costs money, even with insurance and all this stuff. Like absolute pain in the ass being sick in the United States. And that is like a minor thing. Imagine if I had a severe illness or injury or something going on. It's like, it will literally ruin your whole week. Honestly.
Single parent, and my mom owned a video store in the 90s. She only had one employee, so she didn't have insurance plans, not even enough to cover herself. But because she made just $1,000 too much a year, we were unable to access any government benefits or subsidies to get access to health care. So my mother and I had to just pay out of pocket for any emergency room visits, any doctor's appointments. The only time healthcare would be covered would be if you were in a car wreck. You would at least be able to get that stuff checked out. But when it came to having yearly physicals and various tests as a woman as you grow older, all of that I had to pay out of pocket. Now that experience isn't uncommon, especially when you're from poorer state in the South, which most of the states south of the Mason-Dixon line are. The healthcare access is terrible, if not non-existent.
Facts.
In my hometown, there were very limited number of general practitioners you could see, and the one that everyone went to with the best reputation literally had posters hung up that said, "He will not prescribe birth control or Viagra if you are not married." And then there was a lot of religious iconography all in the office. But in this small town, this was your only choice. Kentucky also...
Viagra? Bro. Jesus Christ, that is not appropriate for a doctor to have up at all. Oh my God, this is why you don't it's Kentucky though, you know what I mean? Not justifying that, but that's how these people think, bro. I know all this stuff is free in the NHS though. I'm already you guys so far ahead of us.
Kentucky also has a very unique setup when it comes to liability for medical malpractice, which is a very low payout no matter how extreme the case is. So in Kentucky, you end up with a lot of doctors that can't get insurance in other states for their practices because they are not necessarily the most effective doctors, I would say is the nicest way to put it. My hometown has one hospital, and basically every family in town has some horror story dealing with this hospital. Being over here and having access to universal health care, I don't even know how to mentally process it yet. The idea of just making an appointment on a phone app when I'm not feeling well, I'm going to have to reprogram myself to actually be more proactive about my health, being more preparatory versus more reactionary to when I notice different things in my health. Now that I don't have to fear if I go to this doctor and then he recommends a specialist, and is that specialist in my network?
Exactly.
And then when I go to that specialist, the test they run, the lab they send it to, is that lab in network? How much will this cost me at the end on top of already having to pay my insurance premiums? And once I get a diagnosis, will I be able to afford the treatment? These are real questions that Americans have to ask every time they use their health care, that they pay a premium for. Don't forget, Americans pay the highest insured costs in the world, yet we have statistically the worst outcomes. I do plan on doing a deeper dive into how the NHS started and the history of it and what a fabulous service it is. If you would like to see those videos in the future, please leave a comment below. Let me know any questions you have about American healthcare. Are you curious how that works out? I know it's a very complicated system. I would do my best.
We know how it works out. It doesn't work out. Tudor Yank, though, guys, linked in the original video down below. Very articulate woman. I like the way that she went about this entire video. And I don't mean articulate because, oh, she's a woman, so it's surprising that, like, I don't mean it in that type of way at all. I'm saying, like, as a creator, that was a great video. Like, the way that she went about this, extremely well spoken. So, guys, damn, that was a good, the way that she also was describing at the end how Americans have to, you know, calculate our costs every time we have a doctor's appointment. It's so accurate. That really is. It's like, oh, if they recommend me to this guy, is this guy going to be in my network? Am I going to be insured? What's the copay going to be on top of this? If I do this procedure, will it? Holy crap. If you have health issues and you're, you know, dealing with this stuff, which I have had in the past, it's a pain in the ass, guys. There's no other way to put it. It sucks. It's terrible. So definitely let me know about the NHS, what your experiences have been like in the comments down below. And guys, be grateful for your healthcare system. Even if there are flaws, it's impossible to have a perfect healthcare system. I don't think what we have in the United States is just, it is downright terrible. So I really enjoyed this video. I want to check out more of her videos, the Tudor Yank. Big shout out to her. And I hope she has a good time living in, I'm assuming, England. I'm assuming. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace.